For centuries, a figure has lurked in the shadows of our collective consciousness, evolving from ancient whispers to the embodiment of ultimate evil. He began not as a single entity, but as a collection of dark traits from old gods and ancient myths. In the depths of history, he was a nature deity, celebrated and feared. But as the shadow of a new faith spread, these once revered beings were recast, twisted into something malevolent. Early Christian leaders, in their quest to convert pagan societies, began to weave a new narrative. The old gods became demons, their once sacred symbols now marks of darkness. Over time, this figure evolved, absorbing elements of fear and superstition, becoming more sinister with each passing century. Step into the darkness and explore the chilling transformation of this mysterious figure. From revered deity to the Prince of Darkness, discover how centuries of fear, faith, and folklore created the ultimate symbol of evil. This is the untold story of how Satan was born, shaped by humanity's darkest fears and hidden desires. Our journey begins in the ancient world, where the lines between gods and demons were blurred. Among the dense forests and wild landscapes of Greece, there existed a deity known as Pan. With the horns and legs of a goat and the body of a man, Pan was a powerful symbol of nature's untamed spirit. He roamed the woodlands, playing his eerie pipes, instilling both fertility and fear in those who encountered him. Pan wasn't alone. Across various cultures, similar horned gods held sway over the natural world. In Celtic tradition, there was Cernunnos, the horned god of animals and fertility, depicted with stag antlers and often surrounded by wildlife. In ancient India, the deity Pashupati, the lord of animals, bore similar attributes, merging human and beastly features. These deities were revered, celebrated in rituals and myths that connected humanity to the mysteries of nature. Their horns symbolized power and virility, their forms a bridge between the human and the divine. Yet as new religious ideologies began to rise, the perception of these gods started to change. In the early days of Christianity, these horned figures were not immediately seen as evil. But as the new faith spread, the church sought to distinguish itself from the old ways. The once revered symbols of Pan and his counterparts were reinterpreted, their wild, untamed aspects recast as sinister and threatening. The transformation was gradual but deliberate. The church's early leaders began to paint these gods as dark and malevolent, associating their horns and animalistic features with the demonic. This was the first step in a long process of demonization, laying the groundwork for the creation of a singular figure of evil that would haunt the collective imagination for centuries to come. In this ancient world, the seeds of what would become Satan were sown, rooted in the fear and reverence of the unknown, ready to be shaped by the hands of time and belief. As Christianity spread, its leaders faced the daunting task of distinguishing their faith from the myriad of pagan beliefs that dominated the ancient world. The gods and spirits that once inspired awe and reverence now posed a threat to the new religious order. To consolidate their power, early Christian leaders began a systematic reinterpretation of these ancient deities, casting them in a far darker light. The process was insidious. The gods of old, with their wild and untamed nature, were gradually recast as symbols of malevolence. Pan, with his horned visage, became an easy target. The church began to depict him not as a nature deity, but as a devilish figure, embodying chaos and sin. This transformation was not limited to Pan. Other pagan deities, such as the Celtic Cernunnos and the Egyptian god Set, also underwent similar reinterpretations. It was during this period of religious upheaval that the term Satan began to take on a more defined and sinister meaning, derived from the Hebrew word Hey Satan, meaning the adversary or the accuser. Satan was initially a more abstract concept within the Jewish tradition, representing an obstacle or opponent. However, as Christianity evolved, Satan became personified, absorbing the traits and images of these reimagined pagan gods. The conflation was deliberate. By merging the fearsome aspects of these ancient deities with the emerging figure of Satan, early Christian leaders reinforced the narrative of their new faith triumphing over the old. The horned bestial images that once symbolized fertility and nature's power now represented evil and temptation. This strategic demonization served a dual purpose. It vilified the old ways, discouraging pagan practices, while simultaneously establishing a clear and terrifying adversary in Satan. The transformation was complete. What was once revered was now feared, and the stage was set for the next evolution in the dark history of Satan. With the foundations of this new evil firmly established, the figure of Satan would continue to evolve, shaped by the doctrines and fears of the Church and its believers, ready to take on an even more sinister role in the centuries to come. With the figure of Satan taking shape, early Christian theology assigned him a paradoxical role, the overseer of hell. In this capacity, Satan was not yet the embodiment of pure evil, but rather a necessary enforcer of divine justice, a cosmic prosecutor working within the bounds of God's will. Hell itself, a place of torment and punishment, drew from various cultural origins. In ancient Mesopotamia, there was the grim underworld of Kur, ruled by the goddess Ereshkigal. The Greeks spoke of Hades, a shadowy realm where the dead resided. The Norse believed in Hel, an icy domain governed by the goddess Hel, daughter of Loki. These diverse depictions contributed to the Christian concept of hell, a place where sinners faced eternal damnation. In early Christian texts, such as the Book of Revelation and the Apocalypse of Peter, hell is vividly described as a place of unending fire and suffering. It was a realm where the wicked would be cast down and tormented for their sins. Satan's role within this infernal domain was as the ultimate warden, ensuring that divine retribution was carried out. This role was reinforced by theological writings and sermons. Early church fathers like Tertullian and Augustine spoke of Satan's duties in hell, portraying him as an instrument of God's justice. He was seen as a necessary part of the divine order, a being who tested the faithful and punished the wicked. However, this depiction was not without its contradictions. While Satan was initially seen as an enforcer, he also began to take on the characteristics of a tempter and deceiver. This duality allowed him to embody both the role of a punisher and the instigator of sin, further complicating his image within Christian theology. As the centuries passed, the image of Satan as God's helper began to erode. The focus shifted increasingly towards his role as the ultimate adversary, a figure of chaos and malevolence. This transformation would pave the way for Satan to become the embodiment of pure evil, a journey that would continue to evolve with the fears and beliefs of humanity. From the depths of hell, Satan's journey was far from over. The seeds of his darker, more malevolent role were already sown, ready to flourish in the minds of believers as the ultimate symbol of evil. As Christianity solidified its doctrines, the role of Satan evolved under the scrutiny of church leaders and theologians. No longer merely an overseer of hell, Satan's identity morphed into that of a tempter and accuser, a relentless adversary dedicated to leading souls astray. The early church councils played a pivotal role in this transformation. These gatherings of clerics and theologians debated and defined key elements of Christian belief. It was during these councils that the image of Satan began to take on more sinister dimensions. At the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, while the focus was primarily on the nature of Christ, the discussions also indirectly influenced the perception of evil, and by extension, Satan's role within the cosmic order. Theologians like Augustine of Hippo further developed the concept of Satan as the ultimate tempter. In his seminal work, City of God, Augustine described Satan as a fallen angel who continuously sought to undermine God's creation. He depicted Satan as a cunning deceiver whose primary goal was to corrupt humanity and challenge divine authority. Augustine's writings laid the groundwork for a more complex and malevolent Satan, one whose influence pervaded every aspect of human existence. The idea of Satan as an accuser was also deeply rooted in Christian texts. The Book of Job portrays Satan as a figure who challenges the righteousness of humanity before God. This role of Satan as a celestial prosecutor who tests and accuses humans became increasingly emphasized in church doctrine. The image of Satan whispering temptations and sowing doubt grew more potent, fueling the church's narrative of an ongoing spiritual battle between good and evil. As the Middle Ages dawned, this portrayal of Satan became even more pronounced. Theologians like Thomas Aquinas expanded on Augustine's ideas, further embedding the notion of Satan as a corrupter and adversary into Christian thought. Aquinas' Summa Theologica delved into the nature of demons and their interactions with humans, painting a vivid picture of Satan's malevolent activities. The Church's growing emphasis on Satan as a tempter and accuser served a dual purpose. It reinforced the need for strict adherence to Christian doctrine and moral conduct, and it provided a clear and terrifying enemy against whom the faithful could rally. This evolving image of Satan not only shaped religious practices, but also influenced the broader cultural landscape, embedding the fear of the devil deep within the collective psyche. The Church's doctrines had succeeded in crafting a figure whose influence would cast a long shadow over humanity, a shadow that would deepen and darken in the centuries to come. The transformation of Satan from a mere tempter to a rebellious angel was profoundly influenced by early Christian texts. Among these, the Book of Enoch and the Book of Revelation played pivotal roles, embedding vivid and terrifying images of Satan into the fabric of Christian belief. The Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish apocryphal work, introduces a chilling narrative of fallen angels led by a chief rebel who descended to earth and corrupted humanity. Though not part of the canonical Bible, its stories echoed through early Christian thought. In this text, Satan is portrayed as a leader of these fallen angels who defied God's command and were cast out of heaven. The imagery is striking: a celestial rebellion, a war in the heavens, and the fall of once glorious beings now doomed to eternal damnation. The Book of Revelation, written by John of Patmos, further solidified Satan's image as a powerful adversary. Its apocalyptic visions speak of a great dragon, a serpent of old, who is cast out of heaven and leads the world astray. This text paints a vivid picture of Satan as not just a fallen angel, but a cosmic force of chaos and destruction. The dragon's expulsion from heaven and the ensuing battle between the forces of good and evil are described in dramatic detail, reinforcing the narrative of Satan as a formidable foe who stands in opposition to God's will. These early texts did more than just describe a figure of evil. They wove a story of rebellion and fall, imbuing Satan with a complex and fearsome identity. He was no longer merely an accuser or tempter, but a powerful angelic being who dared to defy the divine order. This rebellion was not just a past event, but an ongoing struggle, a perpetual battle between the forces of light and darkness. The Book of Enoch and the Book of Revelation also introduced elements of prophecy and doom, suggesting that Satan's influence would culminate in a final, cataclysmic confrontation. This apocalyptic vision permeated Christian doctrine, casting Satan as the ultimate enemy who would rise to challenge the faithful at the end of days. These writings left an indelible mark on the Christian imagination, shaping the perception of Satan for centuries to come. They provided a narrative framework that transformed Satan from a peripheral figure into the central antagonist of the Christian story, a rebel angel whose defiance would echo through the ages. As we move into the medieval era, the image of Satan underwent a dramatic transformation. No longer a mere fallen angel or celestial adversary, he became a monstrous embodiment of pure evil. This shift was profoundly reflected in the art and literature of the time, where Satan was portrayed in increasingly grotesque and horrifying forms. Medieval art, with its vivid and often disturbing imagery, played a crucial role in shaping the perception of Satan. Paintings, sculptures, and illuminated manuscripts depicted him with horns, claws, and a sinister grin. These images were designed to evoke fear and loathing, presenting Satan as a hideous creature lurking in the shadows, ready to ensnare the unwary. The famous frescoes of Giotto in the Scrovegni Chapel, for instance, show Satan as a gigantic, terrifying beast devouring sinners in hell, a vivid reminder of the eternal consequences of sin. Apocryphal texts and folklore further enriched Satan's character, blending biblical narratives with local legends and superstitions. Stories of diabolical pacts, demonic possession, and witches consorting with the devil permeated the culture. The Malleus Maleficarum, a treatise on witchcraft written in the late 15th century, depicted Satan as the grand architect of witchery and heresy, a mastermind orchestrating a vast network of evil across the world. These tales and depictions were not merely artistic expressions. They served a didactic purpose, reinforcing the Church's teachings and moral codes. By portraying Satan as the ultimate villain, the Church underscored the dangers of sin and the need for vigilant piety. The fear of Satan and his minions was a powerful tool used to maintain order and obedience within the Christian community. The influence of folklore also contributed to the development of Satan's character. Legends of demonic encounters, possessions, and exorcisms were widespread, adding layers of horror and intrigue to his image. These stories, passed down through generations, cemented Satan's role as the ultimate evil, a being whose very presence was a threat to the soul. Soon, Satan was no longer just a rebellious angel, but a monstrous, all-encompassing embodiment of sin and wickedness. This image would continue to evolve, shaping the fears and beliefs of generations to come, as the narrative of Satan intertwined with the darkest corners of human imagination. As the medieval era progressed, the figure of Satan continued to evolve, intertwining with another ominous character from Christian theology, Lucifer. The story of Lucifer, the light-bringer, added a new layer of complexity and darkness to the already fearsome image of Satan. The origins of Lucifer's fall are rooted in the biblical book of Isaiah, which describes the downfall of a being referred to as the morning star. This passage, originally believed to refer to the king of Babylon, was later interpreted by Christian theologians as a reference to a rebellious angel cast out of heaven. Lucifer, once the most radiant of all angels, sought to usurp God's throne and as punishment was banished to the depths of hell. His name, meaning Lightbringer, became synonymous with pride, rebellion, and the ultimate fall from grace. The theological implications of this story were profound. Lucifer's rebellion represented the ultimate sin of hubris, a stark warning against defying divine authority. The narrative served as a powerful allegory for the consequences of pride and ambition, illustrating the eternal punishment awaiting those who dared to challenge God's supremacy. As Christian theology developed, the identities of Lucifer and Satan began to merge. This amalgamation was not immediate, but evolved over centuries of theological debate and interpretation. By the time of the medieval period, Lucifer and Satan were often considered one and the same, a singular embodiment of all that was evil and corrupt. This merging had a significant impact on Christian beliefs. The combined narrative of Satan and Lucifer as a fallen angel reinforced the idea of a cosmic struggle between good and evil, with Satan as the ultimate adversary. It emphasized the notion that evil was not an external force, but a result of defiance against divine order. This belief permeated sermons, writings, and teachings, influencing the way believers perceived the world and their place within it. The story of Lucifer's fall also found its way into the art and literature of the period. John Milton's Paradise Lost, published in the 17th century, offered a detailed and dramatic account of Lucifer's rebellion and fall. Milton's Lucifer is a complex character, both tragic and terrifying, whose eloquent defiance and subsequent descent into hell capture the imagination and highlight the peril of hubris. This narrative of rebellion and fall deepened the character of Satan, making him not just a beastly tormentor, but a tragic figure of immense power and ambition brought low. The merging of Lucifer with Satan solidified the image of a being whose very essence was intertwined with the themes of pride, rebellion, and eternal damnation. As the medieval period waned and the dawn of the Renaissance approached, the the fear of Satan took on new, more terrifying forms. This fear found its most potent expression in the witch hunts and the Inquisition, dark chapters in history fueled by the belief in demonic possession and satanic influence. The Inquisition, established by the Catholic Church in the 12th century, sought to root out heresy and enforce religious orthodoxy. Initially focused on Christian heretics, it eventually expanded its scope to include witches and those accused of practicing dark arts. The fear of Satan was a driving force behind these efforts. Church authorities believed that heresy and witchcraft were direct results of satanic influence, and that those who engaged in such practices were in league with the devil himself. The infamous witch hunts that swept across Europe from the 15th to the 17th centuries were marked by paranoia and hysteria. Accusations of witchcraft were often based on little more than rumor and superstition, yet the consequences were deadly serious. Women, and sometimes men, were accused of consorting with Satan, casting spells and performing dark rituals. These alleged witches were believed to have made pacts with the devil, granting them supernatural powers in exchange for their souls. Trials were held, often based on dubious evidence and confessions extracted under torture. The Malleus Maleficarum, or Hammer of Witches, a treatise published in 1487 by Inquisitors Heinrich Kramer and Jacob Sprenger, became the handbook for witch hunters. It detailed the supposed signs of witchcraft and offered guidance on how to identify, interrogate, and punish those accused of satanic practices. The fear of demonic possession also played a significant role in these events. Stories of individuals possessed by demons spread, adding to the climate of fear. These tales often involved dramatic exorcisms, where priests battled to free the afflicted from Satan's grasp. The belief that Satan could take control of human bodies and minds intensified the paranoia, leading to an increased fervor in rooting out his supposed agents on Earth. The impact of these events was profound. Tens of thousands of people were executed, often in brutal and horrific ways. The fear of Satan and his influence created a climate of suspicion and violence, where anyone could fall under suspicion. This period of intense persecution left a lasting scar on the collective psyche, embedding the fear of Satan and witchcraft deep into European culture. The witch hunts and the Inquisition demonstrate how the evolving image of Satan influenced not only religious beliefs, but also social and legal practices. The fear of the devil's influence led to some of the darkest chapters in human history, driven by a belief in the ever-present threat of demonic forces. As the fear of Satan grew, so did the belief in a hierarchy of demons serving under his command. Among these dark entities, one name stands out: Beelzebub, often referred to as the Lord of the Flies. The origins of Beelzebub trace back to ancient times, where he was initially a god worshipped by the Philistines in the city of Ekron, known as Baal-zebub. Baal-zebub, meaning Lord of the Flies, was a deity associated with fertility and agriculture, but also disease and pestilence. As Christianity spread, the church began to demonize these pagan gods, transforming Baal-zebub into Beelzebub, a powerful and malevolent demon. This shift marked the beginning of his integration into the emerging hierarchy of hell. Medieval demonology texts, such as the Lesser Key of Solomon and Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum, describe Beelzebub as a high-ranking demon, often considered second only to Satan himself. These grimoires detailed the roles and attributes of various demons, creating a structured hierarchy that mirrored the celestial order of angels. Beelzebub was often depicted as a fly or a monstrous figure, commanding legions of lesser demons and serving as Satan's chief lieutenant. Beelzebub's role in demonology was not limited to his own powers. He became a symbol of the church's efforts to amalgamate various demonic figures into a unified concept of evil. This process involved taking elements from different cultures and religions and weaving them into the Christian narrative of hell. Other demons, such as Asmodeus, Leviathan, and Belial, were similarly incorporated, each bringing their own unique characteristics and mythological backgrounds. Asmodeus, for example, originally appeared in Persian mythology as a demon of wrath and destruction. Leviathan, a monstrous sea serpent, was borrowed from ancient Near Eastern myths and reimagined as a demon of envy and chaos. Belial, whose name means worthlessness, was transformed from a symbol of lawlessness in Jewish texts to a powerful demon of impurity and vice. This demonological synthesis served several purposes. It reinforced the idea of a structured, organized realm of evil that directly opposed the heavenly order. It also provided a comprehensive framework for understanding and combating the forces of darkness. By attributing various sins and vices to specific demons, the Church created a detailed map of moral and spiritual dangers, each represented by a fearsome entity under Satan's dominion. The integration of these diverse demonic figures into the concept of Satan further solidified his role as the ultimate adversary. Satan was not just a singular being, but the leader of a vast and terrifying army, each member contributing to the collective threat against humanity. This depiction fueled the fears and imaginations of believers, ensuring that the fight against evil was seen as a constant and pervasive struggle. Among the many figures that populate the lore of Satan, none is more influential than the serpent in the Garden of Eden. This creature, central to the story of humanity's fall, has been interpreted in myriad ways across different theological and philosophical traditions. In the realm of Gnostic beliefs, the serpent holds a particularly intriguing place, offering a stark contrast to its depiction in mainstream Christianity. Gnosticism, a diverse and mystical tradition that flourished in the early centuries of the Christian era, often viewed the material world as a flawed creation, the work of a lesser, malevolent god. Within this framework, the serpent in Eden was not a tempter leading humanity astray, but a revealer of hidden truths. To the Gnostics, the serpent was a symbol of knowledge and enlightenment, urging Adam and Eve to awaken to the divine spark within them and to seek liberation from the confines of the material world. In texts such as the Gospel of Judas and the Apocryphon of John, the serpent's act of encouraging Eve to eat the forbidden fruit is seen as a heroic deed, a necessary step towards true understanding and spiritual awakening. This interpretation presents the serpent as an emissary of higher wisdom, opposing the demiurge, the flawed creator god, and seeking to free humanity from ignorance and bondage. However, as Christianity sought to establish a unified doctrine, these Gnostic interpretations were deemed heretical. The mainstream Christian narrative solidified the serpent's role as a deceiver and the instigator of original sin. This shift was crucial in transforming the serpent into a symbol of ultimate evil, laying the groundwork for its eventual identification with Satan. The Book of Revelation, written in the late 1st century, played a pivotal role in this transformation. It explicitly links the serpent of Eden with the great dragon, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. This connection was further reinforced by church fathers such as Irenaeus and Augustine, who emphasized the serpent's role in humanity's fall and its alignment with Satan's rebellious nature. Over time, the serpent's identity merged seamlessly with that of Satan, becoming an integral part of the broader narrative of sin and redemption. This transition was reflected in art, literature, and sermons, where the serpent was consistently depicted as a sinister force, emblematic of temptation and moral corruption. The merging of the serpent with Satan served to deepen the association of Satan with deception and treachery. It reinforced the idea that Satan's primary weapon was not brute force, but cunning and manipulation, a being who sought to undermine God's creation through guile and subversion. The serpent's transformation into Satan was a gradual but deliberate process, shaped by theological debates and the consolidation of Christian doctrine. This metamorphosis not only solidified Satan's role as the ultimate adversary, but also ensured that the fear of his influence would pervade every aspect of religious and cultural life. The concept of hell, a place of eternal punishment and damnation, evolved hand in hand with the figure of Satan. As Christianity grew and its doctrines became more defined, the vision of hell transformed from a vague idea into a vivid and terrifying realm where the wicked would suffer for eternity. Early Christian texts and theological writings laid the groundwork for this fearsome place. The Apocalypse of Peter and Book of Revelation provided some of the earliest descriptions, depicting hell as a fiery abyss where sinners endured endless torment. These writings portrayed hell as a necessary counterbalance to heaven, a place where divine justice was meted out by Satan and his demonic minions. Over centuries, these ideas crystallized, fueled by the growing fear of Satan's influence. Hell became not just a place of punishment, but a domain ruled by Satan, where he presided over the damned. This depiction served both to warn the faithful of the consequences of sin and to emphasize the omnipresence of Satan's power. However, it was during the medieval period that the concept of hell truly took on its most graphic and detailed form, largely due to the influence of Dante Alighieri's Inferno. Written in the early 14th century as the first part of his epic poem, The Divine Comedy, Inferno offered a detailed tour of hell's 9 circles, each reserved for different types of sinners. Guided by the Roman poet Virgil, Dante descends through these circles, witnessing the horrific punishments that await those who defy divine law. Dante's hell is a meticulously organized realm of suffering, where poetic justice is meted out in the form of contrapasso, the idea that sinners are punished in a manner befitting their sins. Gluttons, for instance, are forced to lie in a vile slush produced by never-ending icy rain, while the wrathful endlessly fight each other in the muddy waters of the Styx. At the lowest circle, reserved for traitors, Satan himself is imprisoned in a lake of ice, a 3-headed beast perpetually gnawing on traitors. Dante's vivid and imaginative portrayal of hell had an immense impact on the popular imagination. His work transcended its literary origins, influencing art, literature, and religious thought for centuries to come. The detailed and horrifying depictions of punishment solidified the image of hell as a place of unimaginable suffering, reinforcing the fear of eternal damnation. The Inferno also cemented Satan's role as the ruler of hell, a monstrous and malevolent figure who delights in the torment of the damned. This portrayal resonated deeply with the medieval psyche, already steeped in fear of demonic possession and the pervasive influence of Satan. Through Dante's Inferno, the concepts of hell and Satan became inextricably linked, each reinforcing the terror of the other. Hell was no longer just a distant threat, it was a vividly imagined reality, with Satan at its center, embodying the ultimate horror. In the intricate mythology surrounding Satan, one of the most intriguing aspects is his connection to the morning star. This term, rich in both historical and mythological significance, offers a glimpse into the complex evolution of Satan's identity. The phrase morning star originates from ancient times, referring to the planet Venus, which appears as a bright light in the dawn sky. The morning star, or day star, has captivated cultures across the world, each interpreting its celestial brilliance through the lens of their own myths and beliefs. This luminous object has been both revered and feared. In ancient Mesopotamia, the morning star was associated with the goddess Inanna, later known as Ishtar. She was a complex deity of love, war, and fertility, embodying the dual aspects of creation and destruction. Inanna's descent into the underworld and her subsequent return were seen as a metaphor for the morning star's disappearance and reappearance in the sky, a cycle of death and rebirth. Similarly, the Greeks and Romans personified the morning star as deities like Phosphorus and Lucifer, respectively. Phosphorus, meaning light bringer, was a minor deity symbolizing the dawn. In Roman mythology, Lucifer was a title given to Venus, the bringer of light before sunrise. In the Aztec culture, the morning star was associated with Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god. Quetzalcoatl was a deity of wind, air, and learning, embodying both the creative and destructive forces of nature. The duality of Quetzalcoatl as both a bringer of enlightenment and a figure of sacrifice mirrored the morning star's dual nature of illumination and peril. In Roman mythology, Venus was the goddess of love and beauty, symbolizing both the allure and the danger of desire. As Christianity spread, it absorbed and reinterpreted these ancient symbols. The transformation of Lucifer, the morning star, into Satan, the fallen angel, was a pivotal moment in this process. In the Hebrew Bible, specifically in the book of Isaiah, there is a reference to a shining one, son of the dawn, who sought to ascend to the heavens, but was cast down to the earth. This passage, originally thought to refer to a Babylonian king, was later interpreted by Christian theologians as a metaphor for a fallen angel, Lucifer, whose name means light-bringer or morning star. This connection is further complicated by the portrayal of Jesus in the New Testament. In the book of Revelation, Jesus refers to himself as the bright morning star, highlighting the dual nature of this symbol. While Jesus embodies light and salvation, the fallen morning star, Lucifer, represents the perversion of that light, a being whose brilliance was turned to darkness through rebellion. The historical background of the morning star as Venus also played a role in shaping these interpretations. In many ancient cultures, Venus was seen as a dual entity, appearing both as the morning star and the evening star. This duality mirrored the complex nature of Lucifer, Satan, embodying both the potential for divine illumination and the peril of ultimate corruption. Throughout the centuries, the image of Satan as the morning star has been a powerful symbol of fallen grace and corrupted beauty. It serves as a reminder of the thin line between ambition and overreach, between enlightenment and damnation. Medieval and Renaissance art often depicted Satan with elements of his celestial origins, combining the beauty of the morning star with the grotesque features of a demon. This fusion highlighted the corruption of divine beauty into diabolic horror, reinforcing the moral lesson that even the brightest lights can fall into darkness. The once bright angel, now cast into the depths of hell, reflects humanity's own struggles with pride, temptation, and the consequences of defiance. The morning star's duality continued to resonate in modern times, reflecting the complexities of human nature and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. In popular culture, this symbolism is often explored in characters who embody both heroic and villainous traits, drawing on the rich heritage of the morning star's mythological past. In the morning star, we see a symbol that transcends boundaries and epochs, a luminous beacon that has guided and warned humanity for millennia. The evolution of this symbolism, from divine beauty to ultimate evil, underscores the intricate ways in which ancient myths and religious beliefs have shaped our understanding of the world and our place within it. The figure of Satan has cast a long shadow over literature and art. In medieval and Renaissance art, the depiction of Satan evolved dramatically. Early medieval representations often showed Satan as a monstrous, bestial figure, embodying pure evil and chaos. These images served to instill fear and reinforce the Church's teachings about the consequences of sin and the power of evil. As art progressed into the Renaissance, artists began to imbue Satan with more complexity and emotion. In works like Hieronymus Bosch's The Garden of Earthly Delights, Satan appears amidst a chaotic and nightmarish vision of hell, filled with surreal and disturbing imagery. Bosch's work captures the grotesque and fantastical nature of medieval beliefs about Satan and his realm. The influence of Satan extends beyond the medieval and Renaissance periods, permeating modern literature, film, and popular culture. This dark figure has been continuously adapted and reimagined, reflecting the evolving fears and fascinations of society. In modern literature, Satan's character often straddles the line between villain and anti-hero. In Mikhail Bulgakov's The Master and Margarita, Satan, under the guise of Woland, visits Soviet Moscow, exposing the hypocrisy and corruption of society. This portrayal of Satan is both charming and sinister, a figure who punishes the wicked while revealing uncomfortable truths about human nature. Similarly, in Neil Gaiman's Sandman series, Lucifer Morningstar is depicted as a complex and multifaceted character who abdicates his throne in hell to seek freedom and identity. Films have also played a significant role in shaping the modern image of Satan. In The Exorcist, the demonic possession of a young girl by the demon Pazuzu, often associated with Satan, brought the fear of demonic influence into contemporary homes. The film's chilling portrayal of exorcism and the battle between good and evil left an indelible mark on the horror genre. Rosemary's Baby further explored the theme of satanic influence, depicting the birth of the Antichrist in a seemingly ordinary setting, thus blurring the lines between the mundane and the supernatural. The figure of Satan has found a prominent place in popular culture, often depicted with a blend of horror and dark allure. Television series like Lucifer humanize the devil, presenting him as a suave, misunderstood anti-hero seeking redemption. This portrayal reflects a shift in how society views Satan, not just as a symbol of ultimate evil, but as a character with depth and nuance, embodying both rebellion and the quest for meaning. Satan's image in music has also evolved, from the haunting lyrics of blues legend Robert Johnson, who allegedly sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads, to the provocative themes of heavy metal bands like Black Sabbath and Slayer. These modern interpretations continue to explore the themes of temptation, power, and defiance. Culturally, Satan's image has been used to challenge societal norms and question authority. His representation as a rebel against divine order resonates with themes of individualism and resistance, yet the fear he evokes reminds us of the consequences of straying from moral paths, a reminder deeply rooted in centuries of religious and cultural narratives. In the modern era, the figure of Satan has also found a place within religious movements, most notably in the form of modern Satanism. This complex and often misunderstood phenomenon explores themes of individualism, rebellion, and the nature of evil, frequently diverging from traditional depictions of Satan. Modern Satanism began to take shape in the mid-20th century, primarily through the efforts of Anton LaVey, who founded the Church of Satan in 1966. LaVey's Satanic Bible outlined a philosophy that emphasized rational self-interest, personal empowerment, and skepticism of conventional religious doctrines. Far from promoting worship of a literal devil, LaVeyan Satanism uses Satan as a symbol of human nature's carnal and defiant aspects, a figure embodying the pursuit of knowledge and freedom from oppressive moral codes. This interpretation of Satan is rooted in historical concepts, but recontextualized for contemporary society. LaVey's Satan represents an archetype of rebellion against conformity and mediocrity, reflecting the figure's long association with challenging authority and subverting established norms. In this sense, modern Satanism draws on the mythological and literary traditions of Satan as a rebellious, enlightened being, turning these ideas into a framework for personal and philosophical exploration. However, misconceptions about modern Satanism abound, often fueled by sensationalist media portrayals and cultural fears. Many mistakenly associate Satanism with criminal behavior, devil worship, and malevolent rituals. These stereotypes, largely perpetuated during the satanic panic of the 1980s and 1990s, misrepresent the beliefs and practices of most self-identified Satanists. In reality, modern Satanism encompasses a range of beliefs and practices. The Church of Satan, for instance, emphasizes atheism and materialism, rejecting the supernatural altogether. Rituals within this tradition are often symbolic, designed to promote psychological self-empowerment rather than to invoke any literal demonic forces. Other groups like the Satanic Temple focus on political activism and social justice, using satanic imagery to advocate for the separation of church and state, religious pluralism, and individual rights. The Satanic Temple's campaigns, such as erecting a statue of Baphomet to counter religious monuments on public grounds, highlight the movement's emphasis on challenging religious privilege and promoting secularism. This approach reflects a broader interpretation of Satan as a symbol of resistance against tyranny and the imposition of religious beliefs on public life. Understanding modern Satanism requires separating myth from reality. While the figure of Satan remains a potent symbol, the actual practices and philosophies of modern Satanists are often far removed from the malevolent stereotypes. Instead, they reflect a continuation of Satan's role as a challenger of norms and a seeker of knowledge, reimagined to address contemporary social and ethical issues. Modern Satanism, with its diverse expressions and emphasis on personal freedom, continues to provoke thought and controversy. It serves as a testament to the enduring power of Satan's image and its ability to inspire new interpretations and movements. In exploring the true nature of modern Satanism, we uncover a complex, multifaceted tradition that both honors and redefines the legacy of one of history's most controversial figures. The figure of Satan, steeped in darkness and mystery, has undergone a profound evolution through the centuries. From the ancient pagan deities and the rebellious fallen angel to the ruler of hell and the symbol of ultimate evil, Satan's image has been shaped and reshaped by religious, cultural, and societal influences. He represents humanity's deepest fears, the embodiment of sin and temptation. Yet he also serves as a mirror, reflecting our own struggles with morality, power, and defiance. Satan's enduring presence in our stories, art, and beliefs underscores his role as a powerful archetype, one that continues to challenge and fascinate. Today, the perception of Satan continues to evolve. In some contexts, he remains a figure of terror and a warning against straying from the righteous path. In others, he is seen as a symbol of resistance and individuality, challenging the status quo. This duality ensures that Satan remains relevant, a compelling character who adapts to the changing tides of culture and belief. The legacy of Satan is a testament to the power of storytelling and the human need to personify our fears and desires. His image, crafted over centuries by the Church and its believers, continues to captivate and provoke, a dark figure who will forever haunt the edges of our imagination.